Welcome to the Azure Innovation Podcast. I'm your host, Ross Kennedy. Thank you for joining this podcast where we talk to cloud-first companies, technology thought leaders, and venture capitalists on all things innovation. You know, it's interesting when people talk about AI, we often conjure ideas in a very narrow spectrum. Things like generating images or copy or video, or helping us prioritize our email or even draft our emails for us, or academic pursuits like trying to solve novel challenges in healthcare. But our guests today use AI in a very innovative way to be able to bridge between the frontline worker and the back office. I'm excited to introduce Seth Philips, the CTO of Weavix. Welcome, Seth.
Hey, thanks, Ross. Thanks for having me today. I'm super excited to be a part of this podcast.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
What we do.
Yeah. Well, listen, why don't we jump straight in? Why don't you tell us what Weavix does and what its mission is?
Yeah, so our mission is to connect the disconnected worker, the frontline worker. We have our Internet of Workers platform where we enable the frontline worker with our Vault Smart Radio. And so this is our Vault Smart Radio here with a boom mic that comes with it as well. We're trying to kind of bridge the gap between the frontline worker and the back office worker or the desk-bound worker. And really what we're doing is we're opening up collaboration, connectivity to the frontline worker where if they've been kind of left behind per se with insufficient technology, not all the data they need, not the ability to collaborate with each other. And so we built this platform with Kevin, our CEO and founder, and our product team. We went to market a couple of years ago, and we've really had a lot of success. And really a lot of that success has also come with us leveraging a lot of the Microsoft Azure tooling and services, which has really helped us really jumpstart getting this to market successfully.
Oh, that's great. That's great. So what are some of the key innovations from Weavix, and what makes Weavix so innovative?
Well, what makes us innovative is we have really great people. I'm going to start with just our engineering team, our QA team, our product folks, Ben and his team. We have a really great team, a great culture, and we promote, thought, leadership, accountability, ownership of the technology and what we're building. So if you're excited about it and building the technology, then you're going to be successful, right? That's just key. That's paramount to it. And then the other part of this is when our partnerships that we have when it comes to Microsoft. We've got a great enterprise account team. I'm part of the digital native advisory board for Microsoft. So that partnership, having a really talented team that's really focused, willing to take risks, has really made us innovative and really helped us kind of push the envelope in being successful. And so when you think about things like our push to talk, right? When you push to talk, push to picture, push to video. When you think about innovations around tap and go technology, where I can take this device, any user can just pick up a device off our Wrangler and tap and go and use it all day long and communicate and collaborate with the rest of the frontline workers within their business. I mean, it's a game changer, right? Because you're really opening up that communication and lack of collaboration that's been there. And so we're really thinking outside the box, and Kevin's been really good about kind of steering us towards that with his experience in the frontline industry with a number of companies that he's had in his past. So, a lot of it's that, it doesn't, and then obviously using the technology in general from Microsoft has been, hyper important, as I mentioned earlier, which has really helped us be innovative and kind of push the needle and kind of leverage services so we don't have to build everything natively. Now we do build this thing natively. This is our proprietary Vault Smart Radio. And some really great features that are part of this when it comes to speech to text, text to speech to speech, translations in 18 languages, the connectivity. And when I talk about connectivity, we're connecting workers and the frontline worker and the desk-bound worker, as I mentioned earlier. But we're also leveraging this when it comes to connectivity of like Wi-Fi, LTE, and so public and private LTE, working with the Microsoft team, the PMAC team as well, on how do we keep this thing connected, right? So we have really great technology we've built and how we transition to make sure you always have connectivity, because safety's paramount to our business and what we're doing.
I appreciate that. And I think what I was hearing is that people are sort of at the core of how you become such an innovative company. You also mentioned about leveraging the Microsoft partnership, especially on helping sort of create and build on sort of the success that Microsoft has had in sort of its lead in AI. What are some of the reasons that you chose to build on Azure?
Well, the first thing is just I knew that Microsoft had, some best of breed type services that were really unique, and we worked really well with the technology we're trying to build. So there's a lot of tech out there. A lot of people do a lot of different things when it comes to AI, when it comes to translation type work, when it comes to audio and speech to text and text to speech. But the breadth of services that Microsoft offers and the ability to be kind of right there with us in this journey and partner with us in order for us to be successful. And again, a lot of this was about being able to turn up certain services within the Microsoft suite of services they provide and be able to slightly, we can basically kind of weave those into our technology real simply, right? Without having to do a bunch of heavy lifting, heavy work to be successful.
That's great. You mentioned about the Azure services. Can you talk about those a little bit? What are the Azure services you're using?
So across the board, and we leverage somewhere around 30 Microsoft services within the stack, everything from our infrastructure and our AKS clusters that we have in place today to support the application and storage accounts and those type of things. But some of the really cool tech that we use today are things around cognitive services and Azure OpenAI. We leverage, OpenAI, like the GPT Turbo, GPT Vision models today. We leverage the speech to text, text to speech, speech to speech, the translation models for 18 translations. What's super important to us is that when you go to these manufacturing plants, wherever you are, right, the 3 billion frontline workers that are out there, lots of them speak different languages. They're multilingual manufacturing plants, oil and gas, what have you. And, a lot of folks don't have the ability to communicate to each other because they speak different languages. So the translation piece was like a real game changer, right? Because it really opened up, that collaboration between people who really were able to speak and be connected. And that's been a huge win for us. Things like Fabric we're looking into in the future and kind of moving to that one lake model. We're looking at adopting that. A number of other services that we leverage across the platform, but those are kind of some of the highlights of the services that we use. Because a lot of the other things are more infrastructure centric and that type of thing. So that kind of bores people. They don't want to hear about your K8 clusters and how you have that built up in high availability zones and those type of things. Right? I will tell you, one of the big benefits that we found with working with the Microsoft team is when we turned up Defender for cloud. That's been a big deal for us because I'm hyper sensitive when it comes to security. So I talk about my 3 S's. My 3 S's being we want to simplify, right? We want to build. We don't want to over engineer the technology, which is why we can leverage services like Microsoft provides. We want to secure. We want to be a secure platform, a secure Internet of Worker platform. So every single worker who's doing some type of communication or collaboration with our smart radio, with our mobile app, when you think about having an iOS and Android app, or even on our web version of the product, we want to make sure they're secure and everything that's happening in transit and at rest is secure for them. And then the other thing is just being able to scale. We're going to hyperscale this thing, and we want to be set to do that, but continue to better our products and our services that we provide to our customers.
That's great. I love that. The simplicity, security, and scale, these are the pillars of success. And you gave a great example of being able to connect workers who maybe haven't spoken the same language in the past. And I remember you and I spoke late last week on some of the really incredible use cases and benefits. What are some of the other benefits that the frontline workers derive from using the solution?
Obviously, the disengagement, the not having the data, not having the right tooling, the ability to collaborate. Obviously, the translations like we spoke about. The speech to text is great. A lot of these areas are really, there's a lot of noise. So we have the noise cancellation technology that we built into our smart radio to help diffuse some of that, the loudness behind the user, the ability to always know that messages are coming inbound, even if you are in a loud area. And that way you can go back and replay what messages came through, know who's sending you a message, because you could be part of multi-channels, right? We have multiple channels. You can create all types of user-defined channels. There's admin-defined channels. So we're really helping open up that engagement. For the business, there's this whole thing around retention, turnover, right? And a lot of that is just engagement, not having that level of engagement that exists today. So one of the things that we've pushed towards, we just recently partnered with iHeartRadio. And so we're actually bringing safety compliant music, right, to the frontline worker. So now I can have my one-piece headset here, still hear what's happening over here, but be able to push to talk with my headset, hear my jams in my ear and work. And now I've got this level of engagement where it's not this mundane day of work where I'm on the manufacturing line or doing something that's just kind of tedious, right, that I do over and over again. Now we've opened up music. Oh, and we've opened up the ability to collaborate with other people across your business. We're now have data and insights. So we're data driven. So we're getting all that data around what's occurring in a facility, at a site, in certain locations within the site. And are there barriers or issues that are at certain lines or certain areas in the facility that we can really lock into? So this is really about retention, turnover, engagement, both at the frontline worker, which is where we're going after, right? Because those are the ones that we want to be happy, right? That's 80% of America's workforce are frontline workers.
Yeah, let that stick in. 80%. It's an incredible audience. The TAM is huge.
Yes, so it's super important for us. So if we can improve satisfaction, if we can have a better employee experience, if we can, improve culture, which I talked a little bit ago early on about the culture within Weavix. And that's what makes us so great, is that working at Weavix and having a killer culture where we get after it and we're innovative and we're smart, we communicate across the C-suite, but then everybody downstream from the C-suite is all connected, right? We want to do the same thing for the frontline worker. And so open that up for them. The operational efficiency, right? Efficiency for the frontline worker in the business is super important. The safety features that we have, the workflow, the mass alerts, the SOS capability we have, man down type capability that we have in the platform is a game changer, right? We know because we can geofence the site, the facility, and that's what we do. We geofence the site, the facility. We don't track, but we know where people are in the facility. So if there is a safety incident, a fire, a man down, some type of breach, we know we can quickly, get that information out to certain site geofences, certain areas in a facility, and get that to them, which is hyper important when it comes to lessening the amount of incidents, security, safety of the frontline user. Obviously, when you think about safety compliant music, when you go from a location in a big facility to another location, and within that facility, there may be certain restricted areas where you shouldn't have music. And so we can duck that music and then essentially then pull the music back up to where you were. So now you're back jamming with your music like you were prior to going into a restricted area where you need to be on point because there's safety issues that could occur here, or this is, the restricted area or what have you. We really focus on that. So those are the real important areas around. And then incident management, if you think about incident management, the AI safety card type technology we're building, when you think about safety cards, I know that I can go and leverage and take pictures with this device here and run AI models that tell me what type of severity there are with certain issues. So if an outlet, right, doesn't have a cover on it, I can take a photo of that and it could send back 4 or 5 different hazards when it sees that. And as I mentioned earlier, we were talking about kind of curating that data, and you start curating in certain facilities, certain geolocations, certain types of industries, you start curating certain safety things that can occur, and you start building kind of that one lake model where you can actually start really quickly getting information out to all different types of customers about what's occurring, what could happen, what type of incident this could be when you start running it up against your own models. And we can even get those quickly to a safety admin or a safety officer within your company when those incidents get created. That way they have now a way they can look and see what's occurring. What did the frontline workers say? How do we tackle that? How do we keep that from happening in the future? Or it may be, oh, that's not a safety incident. That big hole was supposed to be there, right? So there's a lot of that's part of the platform as well. And we really want to, it's safety, it's that data that we're capturing, it's the collaboration part of it, it's the connectivity, It's being able to transition between different types of connectivity. When you think about LTE and Wi-Fi, you can connect. You're always giving or always have an open channel of communication. So if there isn't a situation where a man is down or someone's trapped or there's a fire, we know where they are, what's occurring, who's in that area, how do we get them help? We don't want the frontline worker to feel like by using this device, we're tracking them. That's super important. Because people are they're very fearful of being tracked. That's a big deal in the world today. And what we're doing, the reason for having like geofences set up within our console and having restricted areas and having multiple geofences essentially at different parts of the area, knowing where certain types of workers are and what's within the plan itself, it's safety, right? That's what it gets down to. I want to know where my people are in case there's an event, because I can tell you right now, across the board, there are safety incidents that occur every day in America and globally in these facilities. And it's super important that we know where people are within the facility. We can get to them quickly, and they have a way to even communicate with others as well that says, hey, I'm down. I need help. I have an issue. Here's a picture. Here's an issue. How do I solve this? Right? Or maybe this isn't even a threat. So that type of thing.
It's great, Seth. I think you did amazing. Now, a big chunk of our audience is folks who are just starting their journey. They're trying to find product market fit, or maybe they're going through a capital raise. Maybe they're trying to scale their business in some way. So I always love to ask entrepreneurs, especially tech entrepreneurs, what advice would you give someone who is starting and trying to build AI-powered solutions today?
So the first thing I would say is, as I mentioned earlier, simplify. Don't try to go all in. Know your audience, know what your market is, what use cases are you're trying to go after. Find the right technology to help you be successful. And as I mentioned earlier as well, find the right a group of folks or people who have certain technology like Microsoft, where you can partner with them and they'll help you in that journey. When you think about our AI safety and our whole safety platform that we're going to market with, one of the real big things for us was knowing, how do we jump into the safety from an AI perspective? How do we use the right models? How do we leverage those models today? And as we're curating all of this data about the frontline worker across all these different industries, across all these geographic locations, we can now pull that, plus all the comms that occur there, right? Or incidents that occur there. We can start curating all that data. And now we can potentially down the road run our own models, right? So we start with leveraging models that exist today that help our business and help drive excitement, right? And then build on it over time. And then you just start, sky's the limit. But be willing to take risks, have good leadership. We've got great leadership when it comes to our CEO, Kevin Turpin, and we've got great leadership from our product and operations folks and our sales team and our strategy team. We work really closely together because we all have the same mission, the same goal, and that's to connect the disconnected worker and to put one of these devices in every single frontline worker across the world. That's a huge network.
Yeah, it's pretty powerful. So I guess what is next for Weavix? When you think about the journey, what's the next thing that sort of excites you on the horizon?
So some of the things that we're working on right now around video and video call type technology, we're doing some things obviously with Fabric and OneLake that I mentioned earlier. We'll continue to take our safety platform, really dial in the safety play here, which is super important to us from a frontline worker perspective. Obviously, continue to enhance our current platform. One of the biggest things that I know that I see companies struggle with is they forget about some of the low-hanging fruit or the infrastructure-related items or some of the scalability, security type things I talked about earlier. They forget about that. We're going to continue to focus on that as well, along with bringing new features to market. So that's still super important. New features, net new, looking at what's going on in the world of AI and where can we really capitalize on that, and where can we dial into some super success for our frontline worker and for our customers, right? Weavix is very much a frontline worker driven, customer centric company. And it's super important that not only we put the frontline worker first, and we give them the right data and the right tooling continually and evolving and being willing to evolve, But we're also helping these companies, right? Because they're now getting these benefits of when it comes to turnover and increased revenue and productivity, safety. So there's a lot that we're doing there that is going to be super successful, super cool. We're going to scale like crazy. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be really awesome. I don't know what else to say besides it's going to be awesome.
Thank you, Seth. You know I'm incredibly excited about Weavix, and your passion comes through, especially around driving culture and the safety for the frontline worker. Looking forward to seeing where you take things. For more information, go to weavix.com. We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you'd like to learn more about Azure services that will help you build generative AI apps, check out our website. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.